Hello, my name's Ian Anderson-Gray, and in this episode of the Confident Live Marketing Show, I'm talking about how you can use OBS Studio with Restream. We're getting a bit geeky, a bit techy, but we'll make it as simple as possible. There's so many cool things you can do, and there are three main ways you can use those tools together. Do you want to know what those are? Well, that's what we're going to be talking about in this show. Let's get on with it.
Welcome to the Confident Live Marketing Show with Ian Anderson-Gray.
Helping you level up your impact, authority, and profits through the power of confident live video.
Optimize your mindset and communication and increase your confidence in front of the camera.
Get confident with the tech and gear.
And get confident with the content and marketing.
Together, we can go live!
Well, there we go. Episode 113 of the Confident Live Marketing Show. This is the show that helps you level up your impact, authority, and profits through the power of confident live video. Now, today's episode started off a little bit better. On Tuesday, I don't know what happened. I even forgot the name of my show when I first started. And it just goes to show sometimes your brain can go to mush, particularly if you're like me and you've been suffering from allergies and hay fever and all that kind of stuff. But it seems a lot better today. And that's a good job because we're getting a bit techie today in a hopefully an easy to use way. My job really is to make these things as easy as possible. And if you're watching live or watching the replay or listening to the podcast, let me know your thoughts. And if you've got any questions, I'm here to help you. That's my job. So there we go. Great to see loads of people watching live. We've got Melissa is watching, saying hiya. We've got Gail Alexander, who's been playing with OBS and Zoom. I hope you survived and you didn't get any headaches from all of that kind of stuff. Challenge ITV watching from Vietnam, who has used Virtual Cam for the video and Loopback for the sound. Ooh, fancy. Yeah, we've talked about Loopback before. So a little bit more about that in a bit. We've got Martin Buckland watching from Toronto. Great to see you. And Gail saying, blame it on the new. Yes, it's been very yes. Anyway, there we go. What we're going to talk about today, OBS Studio. Just before we talk about that, just to say this live show goes live every Tuesday and Thursday. We broadcast to Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn Live using the power of Restream. And when the podcast comes out, we're actually about 5 weeks in between the live show going and the podcast. I'm being hyper organized, which is great. But the show notes for this will be at iag.me/113. And if you are watching the replay or listening to the podcast and you feel like you're missing out and you want to be involved with the fun and ask questions, then why not come live to the show? And you can do that. And if you want to be notified for that, all you need to do is go to confident.live/subscribe. And I even give you a free guide on how to be more confident on your live shows. That's confident.live/subscribe. Well, today's show, I think you can probably guess, today's show is sponsored by Restream. Now, I have been using Restream for years before they became a sponsor. And just to let you know, I only ever have sponsors on the show for services or tools that I use and I recommend. And yes, I am talking about Restream today. And I'm talking about Restream today because I really like it. I love it. And it's a great platform. But they also do make this show possible. And I thank you, Restream, for that. And of course, they have an amazing deal for you. You get a whole month free. This is not available through the website. I've got a special link for you. So here's a little bit more about Restream for today.
The Confident Live Marketing Podcast is proudly sponsored by Restream. Restream is the complete multi-streaming suite for entrepreneurs. It's the easiest way to broadcast live to over 30 destinations at the same time, including Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitch, and so much more. Restream Studio makes it so simple to stream directly from your browser. Bring in guests and add your branding, videos, and graphics, and view and highlight comments from your destinations, all at the click of a button. Take Restream for a test drive and get your first month completely free at iag.me/Restream.
Well, do check that out if I can get my words out. iag.me/Restream. I just want to check something. I tested this out on Tuesday and it didn't work. can see your comments, which is great. So keep them coming, keep the questions coming. And also to let you know that next episode is going to be, so if you're watching live, this will be next Tuesday, or if you're listening to the podcast, next Friday. I've got the king of video, Matthew Hughes, coming onto the show. He's going to be talking about how to launch your YouTube channel to boost your business. And this is something I'm really excited about because, like, that is my next big thing, is to go onto YouTube and create lots of really good content. You heard it here first. I've been putting this off for ages. I've been procrastinating. No longer. YouTube pre-recorded content as well as live is gonna be what I'm doing. So let's talk about today's episode, OBS Studio Restream. First of all, I want to just talk about what OBS Studio is. OBS Studio is probably one of the oldest live streaming platforms out there. So it allows you to broadcast to loads of different platforms out there. You can, it doesn't really connect to Facebook Live and LinkedIn Live and YouTube Live in the way that some other platforms do. You do need to get a bit geeky and fiddle around with stream keys and things like that. Now, if you don't know what they are, don't worry. But the way that works is you schedule or you create the live broadcasts on the platform you want to go live to. So if you are going live to YouTube, you create or schedule the event on YouTube, or you do that on Facebook. And they give you a stream key and a web and a URL. You bung that into OBS Studio, and then that allows you to stream there. I wasn't going to get so techie, but I just wanted to make it clear that OBS Studio is a bit more of a techie tool, and you do need to like roll up your sleeves and work it and play with things like stream keys and all that kind of stuff. But there are some big advantages in using OBS Studio. First of all, it's open source. So there's a big community of people out there, developers all around the world, that are creating some amazing like plugins and things like that for OBS Studio. Open source also, it means it's free as well. So there's no charge for this. You can download it for your computer, and it works really well for free. It's also cross-platform, so it works on Macs and PCs, and if you're feeling really geeky, works on Linux as well. It was created back in 2012, so it's been around for quite a long time. I can see the fabulous Chad Ilya Peterson is here, and he says, I do love me some OBS. Chad was on the show a few weeks ago, in fact, and I'm going to be referencing the episode that you were on, Chad, because in today's episode, I'm not going to be talking too much about, I'm not going to go into massive details about OBS, because we did talk about that on a previous show. In fact, it was episode 113. So when the podcast and blog post come out, that will be at iag.me/113. That was episode, no, it wasn't 113. Oh, I don't know what it was now. I've got that wrong, because this is episode 113. So anyway, you'll have to go to iag.me/podcast. Maybe somebody can, I don't know, Chad, whether you know what episode it was. I'm having one of those days. So OBS Studio is a live streaming tool. It's also a switching software. So you can do cool things like changing the, you can like change your cameras, you can swap your cameras around, you can add text, and you can change between different scenes and do some really cool stuff. So that is OBS Studio. And the next one, the next tool I want to talk about is Restream. Restream has been around since 2015, so like 5 or 6 years. It's been around for quite a while. It is primarily, or historically at least, a multi-streaming service. So what that means, multi-streaming, multicasting, whatever you want to call it, it allows you to broadcast to loads of different channels at the same time, or two or more. So you can broadcast to Facebook and YouTube, or Facebook, YouTube and Twitch, or Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, LinkedIn, Mixcloud, DLive. I don't know. There's like over 30 different channels that you can broadcast to with Restream. And so traditionally the way Restream would work, there are actually two sections or more to Restream, but the multi-streaming service works a bit like this. You use a third-party tool, a third-party streaming tool like OBS Studio or Wirecast or ECAMM Live or XSplit. There's actually loads of different software out there. And instead of broadcasting directly to Facebook or to YouTube, you broadcast to Restream. Restream will give you a stream key and a stream URL. So you then put that into the tool of choice and you broadcast to Restream. When you do that, it will pop up in Restream, and then it will allow you then to broadcast to all those different channels that you want to broadcast to. So you set them all up in Restream, and you can toggle them all off and on. You can also schedule a live broadcast to YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and you can broadcast there as well. So it's really cool. That's the kind of traditional way. There's technically two parts to that. There's just going live straight away, and there's also the events part of it. So this is scheduling a show in advance. The second main bit of Restream is more recent. It's been around for over a year now, probably a year and a half or maybe even two. And that's Restream Studio. And Restream Studio is a live video streaming service in of itself. It works directly within the browser, and this is particularly useful if you're not wanting to get your hands dirty and get too geeky playing with tools like OBS Studio. Restream Studio works within the browser. It's so easy to use. You can bring in guests, up to 9 guests onto your show. You can highlight comments on the screen. I mean, this is one of the big things. Because you're broadcasting to loads of different places, you can actually see all those comments from all those different destinations and highlight them on the screen, which is really cool. And you can add titles and graphics and branding and all that kind of stuff. So that's Restream Studio. There are other things. There's analytics, and there's the chat app as well. I'm not going to be talking about that today, but just to say there are loads of extra features in Restream Studio. So just to reiterate, I'm not going to go into massive details on OBS Studio, on all the other features. I'm not going to go into massive detail about Restream Studio and all those things, but I am going to show you today how to combine OBS with Restream. And there are, as I said before, there are actually 3 ways you can combine the two of them. Number one is you can stream from OBS into Restream. So I'm going to show you that. The second is you can use OBS Studio as a switching tool, and then and then basically send that out as a virtual camera into Restream Studio. If you're thinking, what on earth am I talking about? Don't worry, stick with me. I'm going to explain. And then the final one is, and this is even more geeky, stream to Restream Studio using something what's called RTMP Pull. What on earth am I on about? So really important that if I say anything that you don't understand, let me know. There we go. Okay, I've just seen we've got we had a point from before saying no sound when you went to the 2 windows. Was it this one? Let's just check. Yes, so you didn't hear me when I went to that. So that's okay. So when I went to the chat window, you didn't hear me. It doesn't matter actually so much because I didn't really say anything that interesting apart from the fact that it doesn't work. That's what I said there. I'm just going through the comments. So sorry about that. Anyway, there we go. So keep those comments coming. So let's talk about the first way, which is to stream from OBS to Restream. And this is the traditional way. So you set up your show in OBS Studio, and instead of broadcasting directly to Facebook, you broadcast directly to Restream. And so what I'm going to do, actually, I should have done this before. I'm going to just go back to Restream. And I'm going to share my screen now, so you should be able to see this. And I'm going to load up OBS Studio, my good old OBS Studio here. So here it is, OBS Studio. If you're listening to the podcast, don't worry, I'm going to go through everything with you. So on the screen at the moment, I've got my webcam. I've got a bit of a package that I'm playing around with in the background, so you can see some little graphics going on there. Now, what I want to do is I want to broadcast to lots of different places from OBS Studio. So what I need to do is I need to go to Restream now. So I've created an account here. At the moment, this is a second account of mine. I've only added one destination, and that is Periscope or Twitter Live. Now in my main Restream account, I've got about 15 different destinations. But if you can just imagine here, I've got YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, all those different channels here. And the great thing about Restream is you can just add those channels. I can go to add channel, I can add Facebook, all these different ones, and they will all appear in this list. But at the moment, I've only got one. So what I need to do is on the right hand side on the screen, it's saying underneath where it says ready to go live, I've got two options. I can go live using Restream Studio. So that's the live studio setup, which I'm going to talk about next. But the other option is streaming software. And this is using something called RTMP. So RTMP is the way that we stream with live video. It's, if you think about if you connect to a website, you're using something called HTTP. If you're using email, you're using that protocol. Well, the protocol for live streaming is called RTMP. It stands for, what does it stand for again? I've completely forgotten. Something real transfer, real transfer pro. Do you know what? That's really annoying. It's completely gone out of my head. RTMP, what is RTMP? Real transfer, no, RTMP, I can't remember. Something protocol. That's going to really annoy me. I'm going to have to look that up because I can't remember. Real transfer, can't remember. Somebody else put it in the comments and I'll remember. Just having one of those brain freezes. Real-time media protocol. Real-time medium protocol? And actually Melissa's put it in the comments because this is so hilarious because I actually asked this as one of the quiz questions when I had my Launcher Live course. I set the question and I can't remember it. Thank you, Gail. Thank you. It is real-time messaging protocol. Complete brain freeze there. I did know that. I just, when you forget these things. Anyway, so you don't need to know that, but that's what it is. So that's how you stream to software. Ian, thank you. Yes, it is real-time messaging protocol. I just had a brain freeze. So let's go back to showing you what we do here. What we need to do is we need to grab the stream key and the URL. This is the kind of the code that we need to be able to send the correct feed to the correct place. So I'm going to go to RTMP settings, click on this, okay, and I've got the option to change the server. I could change it to a particular part of the world. I'm going to just leave it as auto detect. So it's going to choose a server that is closest to me. And I've got the stream URL there and I've got the stream key. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stream to this destination. But before I do that, what I want to do is first of all, is I want to toggle off Periscope because I don't actually want to go live to there. So let's go to OBS Studio now. And I want to go to settings. Let's just move that out of the way. So go to settings. And I want to go to stream. And what we want to do here is to select custom. It's a custom destination here. Okay, so let's now go to RTMP settings. I'm going to copy the URL. I'm going to paste it into the server. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to copy the stream key and I'm going to paste it in here. Okay, so now what I can do, and annoyingly, that's just go away. This audio mixer is got a mind of itself. It's getting in the way. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start streaming this to Restream. So in OBS Studio, I'm going to click on the Start Streaming button. Obviously, what you'll need to do in OBS Studio is add something to the screen, such as your webcam and microphone and all that kind of stuff. I'm not covering that today, but I'm going to click on Start Streaming. Let's now head over to Restream. And you can see on the screen now, it's kind of whirring around. It knows it is receiving a stream. And hopefully, it's going to appear on the screen. Okay, there we go. So it's now... Restream is receiving my stream from OBS Studio, and now I can now broadcast to all my different destinations. So the first thing that I'll want to do is update the title. So if I'm broadcasting to Periscope or Facebook, I'll want to make sure that when it posts that, it's got a title and a description. So I'll click on Update Titles, and I'm going to put testing OBS Studio with Restream. Okay, and then I could also add a description there. Because I'm only going to go live to Periscope or Twitter Live, I don't need to worry about that. So once I click on Update All, it's now going to update all the different destinations titles there. Okay, so let's go live. Okay, so it's now sending that data to Twitter, and let's see what happens, see if it's going to send that. So this is number one. This is what you're doing. What we're doing is we're sending a stream via RTMP from OBS Studio to Restream Studio. And the cool thing about this is it doesn't matter what you send Restream. I'm actually sending it in full HD. You can see I'm sending it 1920 times 1080. It's got a good bit rate there. I could send it in 4K if I wanted to, but it seems to be doing well there. So let's just go to my Twitter account. I'm actually sending it to a different Twitter account to mine, and let's see if it's actually sending it there at the moment. Carl is saying, Carl is in the house. Great to see you, Carl. Hope you're doing well. Restream is great. It is awesome. Hope you're enjoying it. Now, what's happening here? It's just being slow. My computer's being slow, doing too many things. Okay, so this is my personal account, and here we go. So it's saying testing OBS Studio with Restream. I've got 0 viewers, which is not surprising. It's not a Twitter account I use very much. But there we go. That is going live to Periscope or Twitter Live. So if I now go back, if I want to switch that off, I just click on the off button there. Okay, so that is the first way of broadcasting to Restream from OBS Studio. That is just using the standard part of Restream. So what's the second way of doing it? Well, you can use OBS Studio as a switching tool. So that basically means you're setting up all the scenes. You're putting in your camera. You're bringing in your guests using something like OBS Ninja that Chad was talking about. And then you output that into Restream Studio using a virtual webcam. And actually, this is the method I think that Chad uses a lot. I think he uses this. He uses this a lot. And the great thing is that now in OBS Studio, the latest version of OBS Studio has a virtual camera feature built into it. So you don't need any extra software. So what is a virtual camera? What on earth is that? I use them all the time. I mean, I use ECAMM Live as my main switching tool. And ECAMM Live has a virtual webcam. So, for example, I can set up, I've got a nice little graphic on the top right of my screen. I can put text. I can use my M50 camera, my Canon M50 camera. And everything that you see here on the screen, I can output as a virtual camera, which I can then use in other apps such as Zoom, Facebook Messenger, Restream Studio, of course, and lots of other places. And so that's really cool. It allows you to set everything up in a tool like OBS Studio or ECAMM Live and then bring it in. And so that's what I'm going to show you now. I can see Carl is saying something else. What she said? Oh, he says, good to see you again. Sorry, I have missed you live for a while. Missed my Sir Ian. I don't know why he calls me Sir Ian, but that's just what Carl does. I hope you're doing okay, Carl. Yeah, I've missed you. I hope you're doing well. Yeah, we should connect sometime. So let's go back to my screen. I've got the same setup here. I could change between different scenes here. I don't know what else I've got here. I've got a video. Who knows? But anyway, I'm gonna keep on with that. And on the right hand side, in later versions of OBS Studio, we have something called Start Virtual Camera, which is cool. So before I do that, well, actually, let me do that now. What I'm going to do, I'm going to set stop the virtual camera, and now I'm going to go to a Restream, and what's going on here? I need to stop streaming. That's what I need to do. So I need to stop streaming. Otherwise, I'm going to be using too much stuff on my computer. Okay, so now I'm going to use Restream Studio. Now, there are two ways you can get into Restream Studio. The first is just to, if you're just going live without scheduling in advance, you just go to the destinations page and click on Enter Live Studio. The other option is to go to Events, and you can set up an event. So I'm not going to go into this in any great detail now. This is for another time, but I can schedule a live event. I can just put my text in there. So let's just put some text. I'm going to put some description. I'm going to schedule it for later today. I can upload a thumbnail, and then I can choose where I'm going to go live to. So once I've scheduled this in advance, I can then go into Restream Studio for that event. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just create, I'm going to enter into the Restream Studio now from that front page. And so it's loading it up now. And then I'll show you what we can do once it's decided to do its thing. So it's just accessing my camera. Okay, so that's now using my standard MacBook Pro webcam, which is not the most amazing. And what I'm going to do now is click on the cog at the bottom, and instead of choosing the FaceTime camera, I'm going to choose OBS Virtual Camera. So it's a virtual camera that is everything from OBS Studio. The signal from that is being sent out through this camera, and I can select it now. Okay, so there we go. On my screen in Restream Studio, I've now got the output from OBS Studio. Isn't that amazing? It is amazing. And I could actually bring in guests into Restream Studio and do lots of cool things. I can highlight captions. So these are I can put captions on the screen. For example, I can put things like follow me on Twitter and things like that. I can put titles. I can also, when I'm streaming to all these different places, I can put all the comments on here and follow them and add them directly on here. And this is important because OBS Studio itself doesn't integrate it. First of all, it doesn't allow you to broadcast to lots of different destinations at the same time, and it doesn't allow you to follow the chat. Yes, you can embed a chat widget in OBS Studio, but you can't do things like, for example, Gail is saying, yes, I love that second method. So I'm highlighting Gail's comment on the screen. Yes, I know in this case I'm using ECAMM Live, but it doesn't matter. It's a similar kind of thing. I could use the captions, so the chat in Restream Studio to highlight that on the screen. It is amazing. So it's such an easy thing to do. And this is probably my preferred method, to be honest. If you're using OBS Studio and Restream together, this is particularly helpful if you're just on your own, if you don't have a team, because you can run this on the same computer without needing a mega powerful computer. Yes, you're using OBS Studio and Restream, but you're outputting it via a virtual camera. It's not too bad. So that works really well. Now, there is a downside or something that you do need to think about. So when I clicked on the cog, let's just click on the cog again. In Restream, I should say. We've got a video input. I'm using the OBS Virtual Camera. The video resolution, I'm actually although I'm outputting it in 1080p from OBS, I'm actually going to be only using 720p in Restream Studio, which is fine for most cases. If you've got a powerful enough computer, I can increase that, which I'll show you in a minute. In fact, if I go down to advanced settings, there's an option for high definition, full high definition 1080p. So if I do that, that's pretty cool. And then I can change my video resolution at the top to 1080p. Now I'm not going to do that now because that's going to kill my computer and it might cause some problems on the stream now because I'm effectively already streaming. But anyway, that's how that works. But one issue that you need to think about is audio, because what OBS Studio doesn't do at the moment, it doesn't send any audio signal from OBS Studio to Restream. So for example, if you're playing a video, you won't be able to pick that up within Restream. What you need to do is set your microphone in here. So it's only going to be your main microphone. So it'll hear everything that you say, but if you've got any special settings within OBS Studio, it's not going to send that into Restream. So you need to use a virtual microphone. And unfortunately at the moment, there's no option for a virtual microphone in there. So that's a bit of a problem. But there are some ways around it, and Chad talked about this And I think somebody else mentioned it. I think this was Challenge ITV talked about this right at the beginning, talking about using a virtual camera and Loopback for the sound. So if you are a Mac user, you can use Loopback. I've talked about this on a previous show. This allows you to route the audio from OBS Studio into you make that into a virtual audio device that you can then bring into OBS, into Restream. This is a bit more technical, and if you're a PC user, the one that Chad recommended is an app called Virtual Audio Cable. So check that out. That will allow you to route the audio from OBS into another app such as Restream. So I hope that helps. So let's have a look. So Melissa's saying, totally amazing. It is cool. Ian is saying no option for 25 frames per second. So if you want full control over frame rates and bit rates and resolutions, if you want all of that, then you probably want to choose option number 1. OBS will allow you to set all of those things. So you can set the exact frame rate and everything that you want in OBS Studio. And then basically Restream will take that and stream that out to all those different destinations in the way that you sent it. So you've got all the options there. There's also a more advanced feature in Restream called transcoding. This is more advanced. I'm not really going to talk about this today, but that will allow you to, for certain networks, so for example, for Amazon Live requires a really quite strict stream format. I can't remember the settings exactly, but it doesn't, for example, I think it doesn't allow 1080p. So what you can do on certain channels, you can downgrade, or it's usually downgrade. You can change, for example, the frames per second. You can change all of those features. So that's transcoding. But yeah, if we go back to here, the options are, I think it's only... it's only 30 frames per second or 60 frames per second. So this is in Restream Studio. So if it's at full high definition, it's 1080p at 30 frames per second. And if you're at standard high definition, that's 720p, you've got the option of 30 or 60. But there's another reason why I think that is the way it is. And let's just see what's happening there. Yeah, the other option is that actually most of the channels like Facebook Live and YouTube and LinkedIn, they tend to only be either 30 or 60 frames per second. Facebook I think is only 30. YouTube is up to 60. You can stream, if you've got a powerful enough computer and internet bandwidth, you can stream to YouTube at 4K and 60 frames per second, but there's no option for 25 frames per second in those channels. So there's kind of no point in Restream Studio having that feature. So I hope that helps. That's option 2. Option number 1 was streaming directly from OBS to Restream. Number 2 was using OBS Studio as your switching tool, and then to output that as a virtual camera into Restream Studio. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to talk about the third option, which is a new feature within Restream, or relatively new. I'm just going to do a few things in the background while I can. So I'm going to go into Restream. I'm going to go to and use my main camera. Okay, so I'm back in Restream Studio. I'm not showing my OBS camera anymore. I'm just using my Facebook camera. But what this next one is, number 3, is to stream to Restream Studio, use it from OBS Studio using this thing called RTMP Pull. RTMP Pull. So what this effectively does, in a simple way, you will stream from OBS Studio into Restream Studio. It pulls the stream, the RTMP, the real-time messaging protocol, which I have now remembered. Now, why would you want to do this? Well, a few ways. First of all, you can do cool things like you could connect Zoom into Restream Studio. So if you have I don't know, 50 or 100 people within Zoom, you could bring them live into Restream Studio and do cool things like if you've got an amazing event, you could use use OBS Studio or Zoom or something like that, and you can easily add lower thirds or comments or branding within Restream Studio. Now, this is particularly useful if you have a team. So I can think, for example, if you are a church or if you are putting on a big event, you may have a media team, and they may be using something like OBS Studio to change cameras and to play videos and things like that. So you can have the team that will do that. And instead of getting them to broadcast that to Facebook or YouTube like they might do normally, you get them to stream to Restream Studio. There's a specific, you'll get a special stream key and URL. So you give that to that team, they will stream to Restream Studio, and then you and you're on the live streaming team. What you can then do is you can manage the chat, and you can add comments, and you can add titles on the screen within Restream Studio really, really simply and easily. So I hope that kind of makes sense, and I'm going to show you how you do that right now. So here we go. We're back in Restream Studio. And this feature, by the way, is only on the professional plan upwards. It's not on the free version or the standard plan. But what we can do now is there's a new feature here at the bottom called RTMP. And if I hover over it, it says Connect Zoom, OBS, vMix, etc. This is the RTMP Pull feature. So if I click on that now, it now gives me a specific URL and stream key. And by the way, these are unique for this live stream. If I create a new live stream, this will be different. It will be a different one each time. So you'll need to let your the other team know about this. So I'm going to copy the URL, and I'm going to go back to OBS Studio now. I'm going to go to Settings. Okay, and it's thinking about it. I'm going to go to Stream. I've chosen Custom again, and in the server, I'm going to put this in. It's got the phrase Studio Pull in there. Okay, let's go back and take the stream key, go back to OBS Studio and paste that in there. Okay, so I'm good to go. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to start streaming from OBS Studio, and then I'm going to go back into Restream Studio. Now, hopefully, if all goes to plan, there we go. It's added a new source underneath my webcam. So you can see I've got Ian and I've got RTMP. So this is cool. I'm using the same computer here, but you could stream from another computer and it will appear here within Restream Studio, which is amazing. So what I'm going to bring that in now, and now they're both on the screen. So I've got myself on the left, and I've got the RTMP from OBS Studio on the right. Now you probably won't want to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put myself away there. So I'm the producer. I don't need to appear there on the screen, but it's now putting the RTMP feed into Restream Studio. And of course, I can then go in and I can add captions on top of the stream from OBS. This is now captions from Restream are appearing on top. I could add some graphics as well. So I could add some quite, some good like little brandings, like, I don't know what that is. I could add some, like a countdown timer. I could add some backgrounds and things like that. So all that's really easily. So you've got your kind of more geeky, techie team that's doing all the OBS Studio stuff, and you've got another team who are just managing the stream in Restream Studio. So it is pretty cool. And I'd love to know from you, which is your favorite option out of all of those. I'm just going to go back into OBS Studio and stop the streaming. Otherwise, my computer will totally fry. So just to go through those three features again, number one was to stream from OBS to Restream using the traditional way. Number two was to use OBS as your main tool, but output it into Restream Studio using a virtual camera. And then the final one was to stream into Restream Studio using RTMP Pull. And I've given you all the advantages there. So many different ways of doing it. It's like completely mad, but very, very exciting. And I'm really excited about this new feature, the RTMP Pull, because there's so many features that so many kind of applications there for for you. This is particularly useful for teams where you've got the more geeky team and you've got the team that really wants to deal with the branding and the chat, the community side of things as well. So that is Restream Studio. So let me know if you've got any questions or any comments. And if there's anything specifically you'd like me to revisit in the future. I want to do more of these more kind of deep dive guides into the various tools out there and how we can use them. Particularly like Restream and OBS and Restream and ECAMM Live. They work really, really well together. I think that is probably it for today, unless there are any questions today. As I said, next week, next episode is going to be Matthew Hughes, who is the king of video. We're going to be talking about how to launch your YouTube channel to boost your business. That's more of a strategy session. Really looking forward to that. And then the following week, I've got my amazing assistant, Tonya Miller, and we're going to be talking about the whole process from beginning to end of producing a live show, the planning, the pre-promotion, the production, the post-promotion, and the repurposing. I don't know how we're going to fit all the stuff that we want to talk about into the show, but there's loads of stuff we're going to be talking about there. And if you have any questions about my process that I've developed over the last couple of years, let me know in advance. That will be next Thursday if you're watching live, or in 2 weeks' time if you're listening to the podcast. Well, we're out of time, really. I've got to take my daughter for her swimming lesson. I've also got to get an early dinner as well. Otherwise, I will shrivel away, and that would not be good. But do keep in touch. Let me know if you have any suggestions, any questions. I'd love to know from you, love to hear from you. And I also just finally want to say, do check out the podcast. If you haven't subscribed or listened to it, it's completely free. You don't have to pay for it, but just go to iag.me/podcast. And if you could leave a review, that would be even better. Melissa saying thank you so much. It's great to see you, Melissa. Thank you so much for your support. And thank you, everyone. Thank you, Gail. Thank you, Carl, Ian. And who else have we had? Chad and Martin and Challenge ITV as well. Been great to see you. I really don't take you guys for granted for watching and getting involved. And for you who have been listening to the podcast today, thank you so much. Well, until next time, I encourage you to level up your impact, authority, and profits through the power of confident live video. See you soon. Bye.
Thanks for watching the Confident Live Marketing Show with Ian Anderson Gray.
Make sure you subscribe at iag.me/podcast so you can continue to level up your impact, authority, and profits through the power of live video.
And until next time,
Toodaloo.